So, here we are having learned a valuable lesson that, just as an FYI, if you're doing Source Connect and YouTube, it's important to open OBS before you open Source Connect. Otherwise, what it does is Source Connect grabs the audio and no one can hear you on the stream, which is super exciting. Important lessons that we have learned today. I think we are ready now. Thank you. Thank you for finding us. If I had been able to get the link restarted fast enough, it would have stayed in the other one. But alas. Yay. Okay. Yes, well, don't have such thoughts. Okay. All right. Okay. Tesla was not entirely certain. One more time. Tesla was not entirely certain if she had fainted or not. But she was definitely on the floor, and someone had put a blanket or a shawl or a capelet or something around her shoulders. She was shaking, and her cheeks were damp, but her mouth didn't taste like she'd thrown up, so that was something. Slow breaths. In on a 4 count. Hold. Out on a 4 count. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Flashback. I am safe. That had been a flashback, and she had mechanisms for coping with those. I am safe. Where was she? Right now. What were 5 things she could see that were here and now? A patch of light falling on blue and gray carpet. A silver star catching the light. A bottle of water. Gold-spangled trousers. A plump woman kneeling across from her. Tesla had met her before and was trying to drag context back into her brain. The theater. I am safe. She was in the theater, next to a box seat, waiting to see a show. There had been an explosion. A stage effect. Tesla's entire face heated with embarrassment. It had been a long, long time since she'd been triggered. But of course, she usually had people checking shows to see if there were any pyrotechnics or if there would be any depictions of spinning or vertigo. Her heartbeat started to speed up, sparks flying across the blackness of space. In, 2, 3, 4, hold. Out, 2, 3, 4, hold. I am safe. She reached for 4 things she could hear. And can you confirm for the audience that the box is completely empty? A man's voice was projected around them in the darkened room. Yes, I don't see anything inside. A French lunar woman's voice. She knew that voice. The hum of a service drone and the clink of ice in a glass. Wetting her lips, Tesla swallowed. She forced herself to meet Annie. Right, the woman from karaoke, and that was Jalna on stage, and both of them might be murderers. Tesla met Annie's eyes. Sorry, she whispered. I'm all right now. The compression of Annie's lips made it clear that she did not, for a moment, believe Tesla. She pushed the water of bottle closer. The water of bottle! Oh, yeah. That's so strange. My speakers are, in fact, muted.
Huh.
All right. Okay. No, I've muted different speakers now. Oh my God.
Hello?
Hello.
All right. Now
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I moved. Oh, it's better because I moved my desk. No, yeah, last time you were loud, so I had moved my desktop audio down. Okay. Good. Good, good, good. Okay. Mm. Which actually makes more sense than and you I'm just going to add it in. And can you confirm? That is correct. That is on purpose. Okay. I don't hear playback. Just as a thing we might want to try. Hmm. Wait. Yeah, but I wound up not actually do I moved them and then I moved it back. Oh, for fuck's sake.
before. That was the reason I thought they couldn't hear me initially. Um, so I think, yeah. Let's see here. Another
Okay.
text. No, not
It's
another
just
text.
why I don't understand.
I'm back, Kendra says. I'm back.
Okay, and
Let's see here.
I have not actually made any changes.
Okay. I mean, it may be that when I hit playback, I mute my own talkback automatically. So anytime that I'm hitting play, if you hear me suddenly cut out, it's probably because I hit play or record, and then
Yeah.
automatically mutes my talkback. And sometimes my hands move faster than my mouth does, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so you miss the end of it. Okay, so I'm back. She pushed the bottle of water closer. Here we go.
Believe Tesla.
Oh, sorry, I was not back. Okay, now I am. And also,
Okay, here we
someone
go.
went out the front door.
Believe Tesla.
Okay. She pushed the bottle of water closer. Blah. Okay.
Believe Tesla.
She pushed the bottle of water closer. What is going on downstairs?
I hear movements, yes. Hammering?
That's what it sounds
Staple.
like.
Stapling?
Or a staple gun.
Staple gun?
I'm calling my dad to find out what's happening. He is not answering the phone.
The staple gunning seems to have stopped.
Yeah, it does seem to have stopped, so he'll probably call back now.
All right, well let's just see what happens. She pushed the bottle of water closer.
Okay.
Here we go.
Believe Tesla.
She pushed the bottle of water closer. I asked them to tell your spouse. Is there anyone else? Sorry. Are you hearing still the thumping?
Let's see here. Yep.
All right, I'm going to go find out what's going on downstairs.
Okay.
Sorry, folks. I'm going to
Just
let
gonna
you
adjust
listen
a
to...
little.
Do y'all want to listen to light jazz or talk to Andrew? I'm going to have you listen to light jazz so that he can also stand up if he needs to.
Sounds good. Really? That's interesting. That means you can still hear me. I thought you turned on the light jazz. Yes. Yep. Oh, great. Okay. Well, I mean, for what it's worth, you saw me moving around back this way. When we started from our break, we got a little bit loud, and so I was evening out the volume of the punch and letting it go back up to our beginning of the day volume by the time we got here. So it makes the transition from one day to next smoother for those that are interested. We get with the backing of light jazz. Woohoo! Forced to start singing. No one wants to do that, least of all. Upstairs. type with a rhythm, right? So the funny thing for me is I can't hear it because I'm listening to Mary Robinette through the connection for the recording. That doesn't carry the thing the live stream does. So I can't even get it. Excuse me. Let's see. We do a little house cleaning here with our plosive key.
Right. Hello, everyone. We are back. My dad is watching us now. Everyone say hello to Dad. The sound
Hello.
was he was actually outside the house and putting firewood into a wheelbarrow. So that was the staple gunning sound. I was like, that's a really loud staple gun. But putting firewood into a wheelbarrow on the front porch, which is just kind of down like there. So it's like, oh yeah, no, this is not actually a soundproof room. It is a muffly room in a quiet place.
Yeah.
Someday we'll have a soundproof room.
We make do.
Yeah, we're fine. It's all fine. All right. Ooh, wrong glasses. I have progressive lenses for my normal day, and I have single focal, well, I guess they're actually workplace glasses for narration that are optimized for the distance of my tablet. Okay, where are we?
We are on page 145, second paragraph from the top, last line after, is there anyone else? So starting with no.
Got it. Thank you.
Here we go.
Is there anyone else?
No. Tesla buried the heels of her hands in the sockets of her eyes, and only the flashes of light told her that she was pressing too hard. Among the many conversations that she did not want to have was explaining to this apparently nice woman that Tesla's spouse was not actually a murderer. You poor thing. She looked past her toward the stage. There's more pyro in a few minutes. Would it be best to step outside? Sparks and darkness. The room started to spin, and fresh sweat coated the back of her neck. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Deep, slow breaths. Name 3 things she could feel. Pressure. Pressure against her back. Pressure of the water bottle. Pressure behind her eyes where she was going to burst into tears again. Tesla nodded. Now we have a small cat joining us. Which one will it be? Well, hello, Elsie.
Let me check one plosive here real quick.
Okay. Just going to help you, Elsie, by getting the yarn away from you before you can succumb to temptation.
That works for me. Okay, then picking it up after burst into tears again. So Tesla nodded and hated herself is where we're picking it up.
Okay.
Here we go.
Burst into tears again.
Tesla nodded and hated herself all over again. Jonas Sarau, Naomia Jakobsberg, Dolphin Carl, Vishal Tharman, Sarika James, Gerd Sikora.
Gerd, here we go.
Gerd Sior.
I got to punch at the right place. That's always helpful. Here we go.
Sarika
You know.
James.
Garrett Sikora. She used to say their names every day. Sorry, that was Elsie exiting.
Okay, after Garrett Sikora, here we go.
Sarika James.
Sorry, you're pretty sure about the name pronunciation? I'm looking at the accent on the last name, and I don't know if that
I
means
think
anything.
so, but I'm not.
Let's look up Forvo. Let's Forvo that name.
Okay. I was going to go with this is the space pronunciation of them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm down with that. Oh, it doesn't let you do accents. Oh, there we go. Maybe like that. Nope. Interesting. Check. There it is. Sikora.
Ah, okay. That was not bad.
Sikora. Yeah. Should we do that one again then?
Sure.
Okay. Sikora. Here we go.
Sarika James.
Gerd Sikora. She used to say their names every day until her therapist had convinced her that it was making her worse. The room started to spin again. Slow breaths. Name 2 things she smelled. The deep, woodsy smoke of an Ely Scotch. Cordite burning. Tesla staggered to her feet, Annie's shawl dropping to the floor, and bolted for the lobby. Her limbs were shaky and uncoordinated, and she almost blacked out again. It would be better if she could get outside. There was no outside to get to. The lighting was a twilight after the lighting. Okay.
The lighting.
The lighting in the lobby, because
just-
I had no idea what I actually meant myself right there, which is why I hesitated.
Yeah, let me just check one quick thing. Smoke. Yeah, can we do woodsy smoke of an Ely Scotch with the M was a little
Okay.
bit missing.
Great.
There we go.
And okay. And just
Go ahead.
as a note,
Go.
when we get back to the lighting, I am adding the lighting in the lobby. So when you hear me say that, it's not a mistake.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's just punch the woodsy smoke. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, someone says, yeah. I'm on the wrong page here. How do you pronounce the name of the Scotch?
It's not Eli?
Someone is saying it's Islay. Yeah, Isla.
Isla.
Isla is what they're saying.
Huh.
Should we look it up?
We are definitely going to go Forvo that.
Yeah. English, Scottish Gaelic.
Yeah?
Scots claims Ayla.
Ayla.
That's what there's only one pronunciation, but they claim Ayla. English claims Isla. Isle of Isla.
Huh. Today I learned.
Yeah, me too. All right, shall we get that punch then?
Hang on, I just want to hear it myself, even though I trust you.
Great. No, perfect.
Isla.
Huh. Well, thank you for saving me from embarrassment here, although I am embarrassed at every Scotch tasting I've gone to.
Well, if it's
Okay.
it may not be well known, so
No, that's. I think it's just people are too polite to correct me, which is annoying.
all right, Isla, here we go.
The deep,
Woodsy smoke of an Isla Scotch. Cordite burning.
That was such a great punch. I'm sorry I did not take out the deep. You want to do it one more time?
Yep. Elsie. Sweetheart. So I may have to take her out.
Okay.
She has a special rainbow magic snake. Special magic rainbow snake that she has a special relationship with, and she has just come into the booth to have her special relationship with her special magic rainbow snake directly under my chair. Sometimes they're quite noisy in their passion, or at least she is noisy in her passion for the rainbow snake. It is, of course, fake fur, so fairly quiet. Are you done? Are you going to be quiet? Just hate interrupting intimate moments.
Can't she and the rainbow snake get another room?
She's also doing this on top of my crochet bag. Are you done now? Dad just...
I didn't hear what your
Why
dad
not?
said, but
he just yelled up through the floor. Thanks, Dad. You can, by the way, Dad, just type it into the chat instead of shouting. Why not just throw the snake out of the room? Because there's a curtain, and okay, I think they're done. They're finished. She has had her moment. Thank you all for joining me on that special journey.
All right, let's get the deep woodsy smoke of an Isla Scotch. Here we go.
Okay.
You ready?
She smelled.
The deep woodsy smoke of an Isla Scotch. Cordite burning.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, moving on. Dare I say it? Here we go. There was no outside to get to. So starting with the lighting was the twilight. Oh, no, wait. We want to go back and get lobby, right? Oh, no, we're not there yet. Okay.
The lighting is where we are adding it. The lighting was a
Right.
twilight. We're
Great.
adding the lighting in the lobby.
Great. So after
Yes.
get to.
Okay, perfect.
Here we go.
Outside to get to.
The lighting in the lobby was a twilight after the nighttime theater to create a transition to the walkway. Tinted glass doors fronted it, and through them she could see people waiting for her with cameras held in their hands or pasted to their foreheads. Most of them tried to look casual about it, as if they just happened to be waiting there for someone else, or it was where they had paused to talk.
As if they from as if they just
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Okay?
Here we go.
Look casual about it.
As if they just happened to be waiting there for someone else, or it was where they had paused to talk. But she'd seen this kind of grouping before. Sweat still stuck her clothes to her body, and she knew that her eyes were dilated and her cheeks flushed because she'd seen photos of herself taken in this state by people who had no idea what was happening in her brain and just thought that she was on drugs. Which, to be fair, there was a period when that had been the only thing that had quieted her mind, and Tesla closed her eyes and took in... Actually, let me do that paragraph again because I want to do a different read.
Okay, starting with sweat.
Still...
So true.
Mm-hmm, sorry.
Here we go.
Since that is a
wait a
single
minute.
sentence. I was like, oh yeah, no, right, panicking. Building panic.
Here we go.
Of grouping before.
Sweat still stuck her clothes to her body, and she knew that her eyes were dilated and her cheeks flushed because she'd seen photos of herself taken in this state by people who had no idea what was happening in her brain and just thought that she was on drugs, which, to be fair, there was a period when that had been the only thing that had quieted her mind, and Tesla closed her eyes and took in a slow, deep breath. She was panicking. This was a standard response, and she just had to wait it out. What I'm feeling is panic. It is very uncomfortable, but it is not dangerous. She wanted Gimlet desperately, but she could manage. Deep breaths. Slow breaths. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Slow footsteps approached from behind, and Tesla flinched, eyes snapping open. Annie stood at a distance, watching her. The woman looked out at the walkway and shook her head. Vultures. She sighed. Well, you can't go that... Oh, she just went the wrong direction accent-wise.
Okay. Well, you can't. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
She sighed.
Well, you can't go that way, can you? I'll hide out in the bathroom. It wasn't the first time and wouldn't be the last. Let me see if I can get us backstage. You can get around them through the service corridors. She smiled sadly at Tesla. I used to be famous back in my day. Most of it I don't miss at all.
Let me just get one little click before we move on.
Okay.
She sighed.
Great. So, moving on
Okay.
with the new chapter. Here we go.
Don't miss it all.
Sophisticated lady. 2 ounces cranberry juice, 1 ounce simple syrup, 1 ounce lime juice, pinch salt, 1 wheel of cucumber, and 1 sliced cucumber. Muddle.
Here we go.
Sliced cucumber.
Muddle cucumber wheel, salt, and simple syrup in shaker. Add cranberry juice and lime. Shake for 15 seconds. Strain into martini glass and garnish with lime slice. Sorry about the phone.
It's okay. You said garnish with lime slice. Is that a purposeful change?
Nope, that is not a purposeful change.
Okay. We'll take it from strain when the phone is done.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Here we go.
Bake for 15 seconds.
Strain into martini glass and garnish with cucumber slice. The dressing room, the backstage dressing room.
Here we go.
Cucumber slice.
The backstage dressing room was bland with no effort to dress it up for passengers. Everything was a serviceable gray-white and battered. Tesla sat in a polyamide chair in front of a makeup mirror and tried very hard not to look at herself so she wouldn't see how incredibly obvious her panic still was. Annie and Jalna sat opposite her, the mirrors repeating them in a long, reflective tunnel of kindness. You should come to yoga with us tonight. We were planning to go right after the show for the end-of-day wind-down, and I promise that no one will give you any trouble. Annie rested her hand on Jalna's arm. Sweetheart, tell her she should come.
More French.
Yeah, we're going to skip both of those until I get my my French template recording.
Mm-hmm.
I could do Annie, actually. Annie's line. Le yoga est calme.
What's the sound of that new thing? The new
This
gender French
This is why we have to wait for me to get the template.
Got it. All right, let's start with Annie's Midwestern accent then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a pre-roll of the line before the French just to have something to roll into.
Okay.
Here we go.
Should come.
Annie's Midwestern accent flattened even lunar French. I'm sorry I made you miss the rest of the show. As soon as a member of the staff appeared to escort her through the service corridors.
As soon. Here we go.
The rest of the show.
One more time.
There we go.
The rest of the show.
As soon as a member of the staff appeared to escort her through the service corridors to the yacht club, Tesla was going to hide in her room and... what? Everything on her list of possible ways to find the actual murderer involved leaving the room. She had been trying to figure out where the yoga class was, and they just invited her. We've seen the show before. Annie brushed the concern out of the air. Though I'll admit that I'm jealous of...
Though I'll admit, here we go.
Concern out of the air.
Though I'll admit that I'm jealous of Jalna getting picked as the volunteer. Isn't that just the luck? Jalna drew in a breath to speak and then exchanged it for a smile. Well, perhaps we shall try again and you will be the lucky one. There was something that she hadn't said. Tesla was alert enough to be able to tell that, but couldn't pluck out what it might have been. She took a sip of her water and knew that she should carry on the conversation, but the amount of energy required.
Let's see here. But the amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
On the conversation.
But the amount of energy required seemed beyond her. But with everything you have going on, taking a little time to breathe and stretch will simply do wonders. I understand that you don't feel like it. Lord knows I understand. But I also feel.
Catch. But I also, here we go.
Knows I understand.
But I also feel
wait.
so...
Can we do Lord Knows I Understand again, please?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm just missing the L on Lord a little bit.
Okay.
Here we go.
You don't feel like it.
Lord knows I understand, but I also feel so confident that yoga will... The door opened, thankfully, cutting off Annie's well-meaning monologue on the merits of yoga. In a long blue and silver cape, Niall Silver swirled into the room. Good evening, dear friends. Allow me to introduce myself. I am the He stopped and dropped his arms, staring at Tesla. Oh, shit, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you all right? She was standing, pressed back into the corner. Her chair was on its side, and the water bottle...
Side after corner. Yeah, corner. Here we go.
Back into the corner.
Her chair was on its side, and the water bottle was rolling across the makeup table, spilling water as it went. Her body felt tight, and sweat coated her. She closed her eyes against the two bright makeup lights. Stars and the lab are spinning past. Gasping, Tesla opened her eyes and swallowed. Sorry, I'm seriously messed up. She dragged in a breath that shuddered as she did. In, 2, 3, 4. It stuck in her throat, and she forced it back out. 2, 3, 4. Sorry, this is your dressing room, and I'm in the way. No. He shook his head and pointed at her leg. You're bleeding. She looked down, and a stream of blood ran down her shin from a fresh gash that wrapped around the outside of her calf. It didn't hurt. She hadn't felt it at all. Oh. Annie jumped up. First aid kit? Niall turned, looking around the dressing room. Jalna shook her head, rolling her eyes, and went to the sink, where she grabbed a handful of recyclable towels. Tesla, would you like to sit down, if you please? Niall fished in his pocket and pulled out a name badge. He slapped it. Delta Delta 113, repeat, Delta Delta 113. The room had been too hot, and now it went as cold as orbiting into a planet's shadow. You called security? Niall looked at her, mouth still open. No, I called a doctor. Delta Gamma is medical and security. Oh, she swallowed. It's just a scrape. Kneeling near her, Annie snorted and reached back for the towels that Jalna had pulled. May I see? It's fine, really. I do this all the time. When she had the DBPS turned up too high, it was easy to hurt herself. That was a later problem. The now problem was that Even without security attached, she did not want one of the ship's doctors. You didn't need to call medical. I did, actually. Ship's rules for passenger injury. Niall swept a hand. Question.
Yes.
At no point in this book does she have a conversation with someone about what the codes, up until this point, about what the announcement codes mean, does she?
Not as
She
far
is
as I
not.
know, no. Nope. And I don't remember one. I mean, she still might assume that he had called security just because he called someone. Is there concern that you think she shouldn't know what that means or shouldn't have a guess?
This is an artifact. And
Paul said he assumed she inferred it from hearing it get called when the stabbing happened. So apparently we did hear it in the very beginning there.
we heard the code. So it's not striking any. So basically, this was originally there. There's two concerns that I'm having right now. One, this was originally there because in a earlier draft, she had a conversation with Josie about the security codes because originally the murder happened in the karaoke bar. So that conversation no longer happens.
I mean, the first occurrence of the Delta Delta was on page 15 when it came over the speakers.
Yeah, no. That part I'm not concerned about. The actual code, it's the conversation about you called security that I'm looking at.
I mean, for what it's worth, it did not strike me as strange because she is a smart person and she interpreted that might be calling security because the Delta Delta from the very first thing. So she's making a guess that was because security arrived as well. But that, I mean, so for me, it didn't stick out.
Okay.
Some other photo, you can see the chat, right?
No, not yet.
Okay, so Paul thinks she inferred it from the call that we're talking about from earlier. Another, Sam says, it seems a reasonable assumption to me, given she's hounded by security for most of the book at this point. And Alessandra said she does call the correct code later in the book, so maybe knowing the difference is helpful.
Okay. I will forward with it.
It's up to you if you want to, all I'm saying is that
if it's not
the poll of 3 doesn't bother us.
Great. Thank you for my poll of 3. Very good.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Go. So, after passenger injury. Looking for it, sorry.
Second to last paragraph, first sentence.
Thank you. So Niall swept. Here we go.
For passenger injury.
Niall swept a hand over his dark pomaded hair. I'm so sorry. They told me that you were back here and that someone had a bad reaction to the pyro. I didn't think it was the same person. Listen, I'm really... let me just do his read again, please.
same punch you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
After pomaded hair? Okay.
perfect.
Let me just check one quick thing that I'd marked for. Okay.
Side of her calf. It didn't hurt. She hadn't felt it.
Great. Okay. Right where we were, after pomaded hair.
Pomaded hair.
I'm so sorry. They told me that you were back here and that someone had a bad reaction to the pyro. I didn't think it was the same person. Listen, I'm really sorry about that. There's supposed to be an announcement. From the pause before he said you, Tesla knew that he'd been about to say her name, that Tesla Crane was in his dressing room, and that he'd come back here to impress her. Would he have apologized about the pyro if she were just an average audience member? She swallowed the rock in her throat. It's very different than your close-up magic. He winced. Can I get you anything while we wait? I'm fine, thank you. She pushed away from the wall, trying to ignore the trembling in her knees. Stars and sparks and darkness, and I should be getting back to my cabin. Not while bleeding. Jalna bent down and righted the chair that Tesla had knocked over and probably cut herself on. Sit, if you please. She sighed and sat down, because being a walking biohazard was a social faux pas under the best of circumstances. Here, they'd probably use it as an excuse to lock her in her cabin. Tesla held out her hand for the towels. Thank you. Frowning, Annie handed them to her while Jalna watched with an equally expressive frown. The tall woman rolled up her sleeves as if she wanted to help, revealing a faded tattoo of coiled pea shoots twisting down from beneath the fabric. Jalna tisked. There must be someone to accompany her through the service corridors. Is that possible? Yes, of course. Yuki can take you through.
Yes, of course. There's a little bit of thumping right at the very beginning of the punch. Let me just check.
Okay. It's the rave that Elsie is having in the next room.
Can we do, I'm so sorry they told me that you were back here, just that phrase. That's where I heard
Okay.
a thump. Here we go.
Dark pomaded hair.
I'm so sorry. They told me that you were back here and that someone had a bad reaction. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Great. Okay. After possible. So. Yes, of course. Here we go.
Is that possible?
Got it.
Sorry, here we go.
Is that possible?
Yes, of course. Yuki can take you through. The amazing Niall Silver unbuttoned his cape and hung it on a hook near the door. Or I can. Actually, yes. Why don't I do it? You and your spouse were so nice to me earlier this week. Where is he? Sick bay? Tesla picked up the water she'd knocked over as her brain slowly churned back into useful thought. She had come here specifically so she could ask the magician questions. Niall Silver had been arguing with a bald passenger and George before she was stabbed. Yuki looked like the person Shal had chased, and someone was lying somewhere about if he had or had not been in the R-bar that night. Oh, no! Niall turned back from the cape.
Here we go.
R-bar that night.
Oh, no! Niall turned back from the cape. And you came to the theater to relax, and then my stupid pyro, and now you're hurt. I don't even like the effect. But the ship... I'm still so sorry about that. It's not your fault. The fault rested firmly in her. Tesla grabbed that train of thought before she could...
There we go. Sec. Getting a little plosive. Great. Okay. After the fault lay firmly rested firmly in her, starting with Tesla grabbed.
Okay.
Firmly in her.
Tesla grabbed that train of thought before she could spiral down further. She needed to ask him questions. Keeping her attention on the bottle, she poured a little water on a towel and wiped away some of the blood. At another time, she could be subtle, but being functional felt like a triumph. You know about the murder? Yes, it's terrible. He straightened his cufflinks. But let me reassure you that there's nothing to be afraid of. The security chief has told the staff that they've arrested the person who did it. My spouse. Tesla kept her gaze fixed on him. They arrested my spouse. He didn't do it. He stared at her like he'd never seen her before, and then his eyes widened. Oh. That's... They didn't tell us who. I'm sure. She set the bottle on the table. The thing is, we were in the booth next to George Saikawa at karaoke. You had an argument with a passenger in the booth. Bald, white, gamer's belly, sweet.
Let's do from. Let's do we were in the booth, please. Here we go.
Okay.
The thing is,
We were in the booth next to George Saikawa at karaoke. You had an argument with a passenger in the booth. Bald, white, gamer's belly, sequin shirt? I'm trying to find them. He pursed his lips for a moment, looking at the floor. They've asked us not to talk about it. All of the frustration and rage at the ship and herself boiled up and over, and Tesla had to hold perfectly still to keep from shouting at the man. There were many things she could do, but shouting at staff was never, ever one of them. He might be a magician, but he was still an employee, and she was still a client. The room was too hot, and energy made her joints crackle. She finished wiping off the scrape, which really wasn't that bad, and said very carefully, I see. Well, I wouldn't want to get you in trouble. A dog barked. Tisla. It's her cousin. It's her evil twin, actually, probably.
Here we go.
a dog barked.
Tesla sprinted to the door and yanked it open. Leash trailing across the floor, Gimlet charged into the room. Her stumpy tail was wagging her whole back end as she barreled straight to Tesla and stood on her hind legs. Her eyes were bright and her ears pointed with full attention at Tesla. The tip of her little pink tongue flicked out to touch Tesla's hand in a tiny dog kiss. A sob rose up in her throat like a rocket launching. She kept her back to the room and scooped her dog up. Tesla let herself bury her face in doggy scent and focused on Gimlet's little snuffles and grunts. She scritched the ears and couldn't feel their silkiness or warmth, which meant
her eyes. Let me check.
Mm-hmm.
Oof, excuse me. Can we get her eyes were bright and her ears pointed with full attention at Tesla? There's just a timing thing between her eyes and were bright.
Okay.
Here we go.
On her hind legs.
Her eyes were bright and her ears pointed with full attention at Tesla.
Thank you. Which meant
Silkiness or warmth.
Which meant she had to be careful not to accidentally... Yep.
Let's do that punch one more time.
Okay.
Silkiness or warmth.
Which meant she had to be careful not to accidentally hurt her dog. Tesla leaned out into the hall, some part of her expecting Shal to be chasing Gimlet, that Halden Kuznetsova had done as he'd promised and gotten them to release her spouse, while also knowing that he wouldn't be there. Officer Piper jogged down the corridor toward her, annoyance clear on her face.
Annoyance.
Okay.
The corridor toward her.
Annoyance clear on her face. If Tesla started crying now, she wouldn't stop until they reached Mars. And then Shal sauntered around the corner, trailed by the wall of Bob. Hanky-panky. 1.5 ounce sweet vermouth, 1.5 ounce gin, 1/2 ounce Fernet Branca. Lemon peel. Stir ingredients over ice for 40 seconds, strain into coupe, garnish with a lemon peel. The dressing room door clicked shut as Annie and Jalna followed Niall out into the hall.
A couple questions. Is it Fernet
Yes.
or Fernet? It's Fernet. Okay, great. And then you added a shut, clicked shut. Is that on purpose? The dressing room
Nope.
door clicked shut. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Let's do it from the dressing room door, please.
Okay.
Here we go.
With a lemon peel.
The dressing room door clicked as Annie and Jalna followed Niall out into the hall, leaving Tesla and Shal alone in the dressing room. Gimlet huffed at the door, small tail wagging. Mostly alone. Shal ran a hand down Tesla's cheek, and his brow furrowed with concern. His lips parted with a question, and she stepped into him before he could ask if she was okay. That question turned into a kiss. Her spouse's lips were full and warm and slightly chapped. His arms went around her, pulling her against him with gentle pressure. She dialed back the DBPS so.
She dialed. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
With gentle pressure.
She dialed back the DBPS so she... Water.
Yep.
Okay.
Here we go.
With gentle pressure.
She dialed back the DBPS so she could feel the warmth of his hands playing along. Playing.
Let me check one quick thing, please.
Mm-hmm. Please check as many things as you like.
So, what page are we on now? 150 something?
153.
153. Kendra has mentioned it. When we first mentioned the sequined thing, it was a capelet and not a shirt. Was that just
thing.
choose? Let me go back here.
Oh. I thought it was a
She
capelet
said-
with matching shirt.
It was a shirt with matching, something with a matching. Yeah, let me look. It was. You're right. It was capelet, matching capelet. Let's see here. Pullover and matching capelet. A sequin pullover and a matching capelet.
Mm-hmm. I think we'll just go ahead and add sequin shirt and capelet.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me find my. There it is. It's on page 151. You must already be there. I got to find my spot.
Mm-hmm. So, interesting trivia. The reason that the capelet is that the existence of the capelets is that when they sent me the art for the cover, we had described there was a blue shawl that Tesla was wearing, and in one of the sketches she had a capelet on, and I liked it, and so I was like, I'm just going to add capelets into the book, and that is a fashion thing in the future. So I just put in multiple capelets through the thing. And so that is why the capelet exists, and also why it is not here.
So we're going to do sequin shirt and capelet.
Mhm.
Is that what you're adding? Okay.
Yes.
Let's just punch that a little bit. I was going to say the reason I thought you were going to say the reason the capelets existed was because the Montagues exist too, but I know. Exactly.
You have been hanging out with Kendra too much.
Grown worthy for sure. All right. Sequin shirt and capelet. Here we go.
Gamer's belly.
Sequin shirt and capelet?
Thank you. Okay, great. Back where we were. After pulling her against him with gentle pressure on 153, we were saying.
Got it.
I'm still looking. There it is. She dialed back.
Okay.
Gentle pressure.
She dialed back the dBPS so she could feel the warmth of his hands playing along the length of her spine. He found the tight spots and pressed against them as part of his caress. There was a difference between the absence of pain and the easing of pain. It was worth feeling the red knots of barbed wire to also feel his gentle touch as he found each knot and rubbed circles to break them apart. "Hello, sweetheart." At the ping from his system, she gasped and curled her fingers in his hair. "You're back online. Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" His tongue just parted her lips, teasing her. "Local access only, so you'll have to put up with lots of skin-to-skin contact if you want to ping me." "Oh, yes, I would very, very much like to ping you. I'll try to survive the local network restriction." She ran her hand down his front, carefully not putting pressure on his ribs.
She ran. So Sam is saying that you said arguing with the pastor in the booth instead of in front of the booth in that same sequence we just fixed. Was it in front or in? I thought it was in, but
Where? What? I don't know where we are.
Where we just were talking about where she was talking to the magician about how she was arguing. You had an argument with the pastor in front of the booth, right? The same area. You said Tesla said you had an argument with the pastor in front of the booth, and someone is saying that when the argument happened, it was with the pastor in the booth. Oh no, he's saying we misread it. Sorry, that's my bad.
Okay.
Let's go back there and fix it real quick.
Thank
now
you.
that I understand what was actually being said. Yep, that's right. Thank you for that catch. So you had an argument with the pastor in front of the booth is what we should have said.
Okay.
Here we go.
Sorry,
you see where we are?
Yes.
On page. Okay, here we go.
At karaoke.
You had an argument with a passenger in front of the booth?
Great. Thank you. Great. Thank you for that. Length I have written down here.
Along the length of her spine. He found...
There it is.
Okay.
I'm just doing a little click repair.
Clickety clickety. I'll drink more water so there's less clicking.
Okay, that'd be good.
Fun fact. Frequently, mouth noises in recording and because the person's mouth is very dry and it is sticking to itself as they're talking, which is disgusting when you think about it. I'm going to drink some more water.
Okay. I'm still playing with this a little bit. There we go.
Also, fun fact, sometimes it's because you haven't swallowed and there's too much saliva in your mouth, which is a different kind of disgusting. And so one of the things that you have to actually learn to do as a narrator is to pause, swallow, pause, and then keep going to make it easier for your engineer to go back and remove the sound of you swallowing, because people don't enjoy the sound of a swallow right next to their eardrums.
Let's see.
That is not the ASMR that anyone wants. I don't know. Maybe someone does.
I mean, you could always make a YouTube video and see how many hits you got.
Oh, thank you. No, because it is not the ASMR that I want. Let's say that.
There you go. All right, let's do it after local network restriction.
Got it.
Here we go.
Work restriction.
She ran her hand down his front, carefully not putting pressure on his ribs, planning to circle back so she could grab his beautifully formed buttocks. Would you like to wait for that airplane to...
Yeah, let's wait for that. Let me see if when I start hearing it here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do it with the same punch.
Okay.
I don't hear it anymore, though.
Nope. No, that...
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Just had to do that one dive, and then here we go.
Work restriction.
She ran her hand down his front, carefully not putting pressure on his ribs, planning to circle back so she could grab his beautifully formed buttocks. He squeezed her upper arms, rubbing his thumbs in circles on the balls of her shoulders. Your new client came to see me. Fascinating story. How much of it do you believe? His mouth quirked to the side, and he ran his fingers down the side of her face. Parts. But he's definitely leaving things out.
Parts.
Side of her face.
Parts. But he's definitely leaving things out and highlighting only the things he wants us to focus on. I have a laundry list of things I want to follow up on. Me too. Speaking of which, good thinking to hide a note on Gimlet. What did it... Someone knocked on the door. Medic? Sighing, Tesla stepped away from Shal, feeling his absence down the length of her body. She pulled the door open, and Ruth Fish was standing in the hall, bag slung over her shoulder. The medic looked up at Tesla, and her eyes widened. Well, shit. We're in agreement. What are you doing here? Dr. Fish's jaw tightened. I was answering a Delta-Delta call since I was kicked out of my own infirmary because... He's here? She turned to the side. Bob! What is going on here?
Corporate said to release him. The chief told us to escort him back to their cabin.
This isn't their cabin.
Yeah, well, the little dog...
My fault. Sorry, that's wrong for Shal.
Let me check one little thumpy sound I heard.
I thought for a moment you said puppy sound, and I was like, Gimlet. Also, fun fact, I can generate a one-page resume of nothing except dog rolls.
Is that a software, or you just do it by hand?
Dog rolls? No. What you're doing. I think that's a question for you, Andrew. Removing the thumpy noise.
Oh, what am I doing? I didn't see a question.
Oh, you just... Okay, is that software, or are you doing that by hand?
I thought... I thought you were talking. You said you can generate a one-page resume of doggerel.
Dog rolls. Oh, yeah. When I do resumes for going out for auditions, I can pulling from roles that I have played in my history. I can make a one-page resume that contains nothing except dog rolls.
I got it. Now I understand. Yeah. I thought you were saying doggerels, like
Oh, dog
random.
rolls. Yes. No, very different conversation.
So I was wondering if you say
Yeah.
Okay, so after down the length of her body, please. I just need the next sentence. Here we go.
Down the length of her body.
Sorry, I thought I knew where we were, and length of spine.
Halfway up the page, at the sentence that starts with sighing. It's right after their last ping. 2 sentences down from their last ping. Yep. So after length of her body, she pulled the door open through hall. Here we go.
Down the length of her body.
She pulled the door open, and Ruth Fish was standing in the hall.
Thank you. She pulled. Great. Okay. Pulled the door. Escort him. Can we do it from Bob? The chief told us to escort him back to their cabin, and keep going from there, please. On the next page. Oh no, not on the next page. Further down the page.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, here we go.
Said to release him. The chief.
Here we go. I don't know why it's funny when you do a whatchamacallit in a voice like that, but it's even funnier for me. I don't know. Like Bob had made a mistake. You know what I mean? Here we go.
Said to release him. The chief told us to escort him back to their cabin.
This isn't their cabin.
Yeah, well, the little dog.
My fault. Shal held his hands up in a gesture of surrender. I said, "Find Mama." Gimlet huffed and shoved her face against Tesla's leg. She put a paw on Tesla's shoe, looking back at Shal as if he were an idiot for not knowing where Mama was. Tesla smiled at the little dog. "Good girl." "He's not well." Dr. Fish pointed into the dressing room, and her face was flushed. "Tell me that we're at least keeping him under observation? Confined to his cabin? Stop shrugging at me!" Tesla shut the door and leaned against it. Fish immediately hammered on it. Tesla raised her voice. "We decline treatment!" She could make out a rumble of voices in the hall, but the knocking stopped. Sighing, she shook her head and looked at Shal. Well, that was annoying. "Tesla, what happened to your leg?" "Oh, bumped into a chair?" She shrugged, moving away from the door.
She shrugged. Let me get one little plosive. Great. So, after bumped into a chair, here we go.
Bumped into a chair?
She shrugged, moving away from the door, but the mirrors around them gave her nowhere to hide her face. In the glass over the makeup table, Shal's gaze tracked her. "If I asked you how bad it was?" Her voice, her face. Some feature.
Here we go.
Bad it was.
Her face was still blotchy from sobbing earlier, and sweat had glued parts of her hair to her forehead. The rest frizzed in a wild, unsettled mass around her cheeks. Tesla resettled the synthetic satay adhesive that held the wig in place and tried to finger comb the vivid hair back into something that at least looked intentional. Will you let me lie right now with the promise to tell you later? He sighed, lips pressing together as if he were actively holding his tongue. But he nodded. Catch me up on the things you can now. Got in touch with Fantine finally. Fantine, and also I am not confident about, I think it may be Satai.
Okay.
Or Sidai. Why do I use words that I don't know?
For fun?
Fun and profit.
Satai was spelled S-E-T-A-E.
S-E-T-A-E.
Okay, S-E-T-A-E. Is that in the English language? There it is. Huh. Someone who sounds like they have a dog barking behind them would claim CT. That's the English pronunciation. The French one is pending. Would this be a Merriam-Webster thing, possibly?
It is a real word. So
Let's look. Well, the plural is, okay, a slender, usually rigid or bristly and springy organ or part of an animal or plant. That's definitely not it.
yeah, that is definitely it.
Oh, that's it. CT.
CT.
CT, according to Merriam-Webster.
No?
Yes.
Well, CT, yes. Yes, I
CT,
see.
yep.
Weird.
Yeah, news to me. Where is this? There it is. The synthetic CT adhesive, which is somewhere in the last thing we recorded here. Let me find it. Tesla resettled.
Okay.
And after place, I think, be fine.
Okay.
Go.
Around her cheeks.
Tesla resettled the synthetic CT adhesive that held the wig in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, CT are the I should have gone with the other name that I toyed with, gecko skin. But gecko that's how geckos can climb walls.
Ah.
They have CT
Oh,
on
interesting.
their little feet.
Huh. After place. Just making sure I actually do the punch correctly. Okay. So, starting with catch me up on things you can now. Here we go.
Okay.
Right after that.
Can now.
Got in touch with Fantine finally. She went to the sink to run water over her hands. Gimlet followed, nails tapping against the floor with worry in her furry.
Gimlet followed, please. Or nails from nails. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Gimlet followed.
Nails tapping against the floor, with worry in her furry face. As Tesla made an effort to repair her appearance with minimal tools, Shao stood behind her, running one hand down the length of her spine while the other worked the tight strands of muscle at the base of her skull. His skin was warm against hers, and she used the local connection to catch Shao up on her conversation with Fantine. Just going to say the number of things that we are doing down the length of something. Just like, obviously, these two want to have sex very badly.
Listen to one thing for me and see if it's okay with you, please.
Okay.
Appearance is what I'm listening for.
As Tesla made an effort to repair her appearance with minimal tools.
Let's fix that.
Okay, great. I figured it was not regional
Intentional,
accent,
no.
but I thought I would check. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Her
Sometimes
furry
it is, but
face.
no. As Tesla made an effort to repair her appearance with minimal tools, Shao stood behind her, running one hand down the length of her spine while the other worked the tight strands of muscle at the base of her skull. His skin was warm against hers, and she used the local connection to catch Shal up on her conversation with Fantine, the contents and reasoning behind her list of suspects, and sent him the pictures of Yuki. He sent back, "Maybe. Take the earrings out. He'd certainly have access to the service stairs." "True. I'll see what I can find out about him, if we can talk them into letting me connect to a system. If Fantine can talk them into letting. That's obviously what I meant to say." In the mirror, Shal grinned at her and leaned forward to plant a kiss at the nape of her neck. "If you keep that up, I'll lose my train of thought." Over her shoulder, his grin flashed again before he gently nipped the side of her neck. "What else do you have to report?" "I think that they put the oxyfeldone in the lunacy gin and then dumped it after you were unconscious." His head came up sharply. "They dumped? Sorry."
Let's see. Let me check something real quick. Just listen to service stairs and see if it bothers you at all.
He'd certainly have access to the service stairs.
It does.
Okay, great. I mean, not great, but I'm glad I marked it then. Here we go. Just that phrase, please.
The earrings out.
He'd certainly have access to the service stairs.
Great. Move it on. Okay. After you unconscious, so starting with they dumped.
Or unconscious.
His head came up sharply. "They dumped the lunacy gen? Monsters!" She snorted and turned to kiss him. "Naturally, that's what you're upset about. They don't export it. How are we supposed to replace it on Mars?" He kissed her back, following the line of her jaw to the tender point underneath.
Following. Can we do they jump the lunacy gin? Just the gin ended up sounding a little bit like Jen. Just that phrase, please.
Okay.
Head came up sharply.
"They dumped the lunacy gen? Monsters."
Good. Thank you. He kissed her back. Here we go. I suppose I should check in on the... Okay, here we go.
He kissed her back.
Following the line of her jaw to the tender point below her ear. "Scoundrels."
Yeah, sorry. Let's do that.
Okay.
He kissed her back.
Following the line of her jaw to the tender point below her ear. "Scoundrels." "So, someone tried to kill you. Why?" "You mean besides the fact that I potentially saw the murderer? I'm more worried about the fact that they tried to frame me."
After frame, here we go.
Tried to frame me.
Good.
Tried to frame me.
Good. Just gonna drink water.
Okay.
Okay.
Tried to frame me.
Coincidence because we were next door, or deliberate because I had a link to Saikawa. And you're worried about the gin. Gotta have priorities. She sighed and glared at him, but his eyes were closed and half hidden by his hair. Holden sounded like his liquor had also been dosed, so I want to sample it. She nipped the rough stubble on his neck. Shal pushed to back her a little away from him. I said client when I came in, but I don't think we should take this case. I think we should take Fantine's advice and hunker down in our cabin for the rest of the cruise. What are you talking about? Of course we have to. We can't just let the murderer get away. Ruth Fish could have killed me. Tesla shivered at the sudden chill in the air. I know! That's my point. That's why I didn't want her treating you. He shook his head. No, I mean, while I was unconscious, before you were called. She had an easy opportunity to make sure that the overdose was permanent, and she didn't. Tesla blinked at him. She blinked again as she remembered the doctor treating him when she first came in. She didn't smell like bourbon. He tilted his head to the side. Unpack that for me. When I came in, she didn't smell like bourbon, but she did later. She replayed that memory, trying to figure out when that had shifted. Gimlet stood up on her hind legs and rested her paws on Tesla's thigh.
Let's go back and get 2 things, please. Pushed. Shall push to back her a little away from. Let me just listen to that. It's just get the push. Oops, too far, too far. Can you just get me a line, shall push to back her a little away from him, just because the P of pushed, there's a little bit of a plosive and my removal software is not doing a good enough job.
Okay.
Here we go.
Stubble on his neck.
Shal pushed to back her a little away from him.
Thank you. 1 sec. And then the other thing was that the overdose. She had an easy opportunity to make sure the overdose was permanent.
Okay.
Just sounded like you intended a different accent when you got there than you ended up reading.
Got it.
So she had an easy opportunity. And she didn't. Here we go.
Okay.
Or you were called.
She had an easy opportunity to make sure that the overdose was permanent, and she didn't.
Perfect. Thank you. Back to where we were.
Great. I am making a small change so that Tesla now says after Halden came in with Chief Weiser, and I've taken the with Chief Weiser away from Shal because he was unconscious and would not know that the two of them came in.
Perfect. Okay. When that had shifted, so Gimlet stood. Here we go. When you're ready.
In that had shifted.
Gimlet stood up on her hind legs and rested her paws on Tesla's thigh. Absent-mindedly, she scratched her dog's ears. After Halden came in with Chief Weiser. Shal rubbed his mouth, staring into the upper corner of the room as if he were putting pieces together in his mind. So, which ones prompted her?
There's a little bit of a dropout on came in. Let me just see. Yep, so I need after Halden came in with Chief Weiser. Let's just take it from there, please.
Okay.
Her dog's ears.
after Halden came in with Chief Weiser. Shall.
Here we go. Shall.
And with Chief Weiser.
Shal rubbed his mouth, staring into the upper corner of the room as if he were putting pieces together in his mind. So, which one prompted her to start drinking? Or was it both of them? Or something else? See? You can't put this case down. And if Ruth Fish isn't the murderer... I didn't say that she wasn't. I said that she'd had a chance to kill me and didn't. He sighed and ran his fingers through his hair. What about Annie and Jalna? Even as she said it, Tesla had a hard time imagining either woman killing Saikawa. They're staying in the Grand Royal Suites and in a yoga group with Saikawa. So, assassin wives? Shal nodded. Yes, that is definitely a possibility. Don't make fun of me. Believe it or not, I wasn't. I am dubious about that claim, but if you're acknowledging that it's possible, then you'll be happy to know that they invited me.
After possible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, after happy to know. There we go.
Then you'll be happy to know.
One more time.
Here we go.
Then you'll be happy to know.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Then you'll be happy to know.
That they invited me to go with them to the class. I could scope out the other people. Look, if this thing about George and Ruth being in cahoots... Cahoots? Really? Mm-hmm. It's a technical term. If they are in cahoots, the way Halden says... Oof, one more time.
Let's listen to... Can we take it from Shal's line? The first cahoots sounded...
Cahoots?
So from if this thing, please. Cahoots is definitely one of those words where you're like, is that a word that sounds real? Here we go.
Cahoot.
Look.
If this thing about George and Ruth being in cahoots... Cahoots? Really? Mm-hmm. It's a technical term. If they are in cahoots, the way Halden says, then he's probably the only one in danger. And more so if we start obviously pushing. So we hole up, and he... what? Holes up in a cabin that was already compromised once? Shal grimaced and cracked his neck. There are other options, none of which involves you taking unnecessary risks. A yoga class with people that you think might be murderers. Yoga class. I wouldn't be alone. You came to the theater alone. Did you tell anyone where you were going? I told Halden. Telling a potential... one more time. I actually, let me do his you came to the theater alone.
Okay.
Just want to do a different read.
Get a little... Sounds good. I need to get a little cookie thing. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, there's one. And then involved. None of which involve you taking unnecessary risk. You said involves.
Okay. Shall we just go from there?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Here we go.
For other options.
None of which involve you taking unnecessary risks. A yoga class with people that you think might be murderers. Yoga class. I wouldn't be alone. You came to the theater alone. Did you tell anyone where you were going? I told Halden. Telling a potential...
Telling. Here we go.
I told Halden.
Telling a potential suspect does not count. Also, there's a bajillion people in the theater. Not alone. Hi, I don't know if you noticed this, but I found you backstage in a room full of people that I suspect of being murderers. Fine, you win. I was... She bit off the explanation that she'd had a flashback. That would be a point in his favor. They're accusing you of murder and you don't want to investigate? What is wrong with you? For a moment, anger made Shal's nostrils narrow as he forcefully inhaled. He held it. At her feet, Gimlet shifted, looking between them. Shal's voice was stiff and level when he spoke. "Are we having a fight?" Yes? She blinked, and some of the anger drained out of her. "First one of our marriage." "Only a week in." He widened his eyes. "Ooh, this means we get to have makeup sex, right?" She laughed and leaned forward to kiss him on the cheek. "I do recall that in the handbook." "You got a handbook?" He snapped his fingers with faux chagrin.
He snapped.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Got a handbook.
He snapped his fingers with faux chagrin and then sighed, looking down at the floor. "But seriously, doll, please don't go places alone. Do you understand how easy it is to abduct someone in broad daylight? Drug a drink. They say you're drunk. Please, please don't do things like going to the pool without telling anyone again." She pulled her head back, almost irritated enough to start yelling again. "Without telling? I told you." Shal stopped. "What?" "I told you where I was going. I called you and told you, and who I was going to talk to." Seeing him go uncertain was startling. Shal was quiet about his cockiness, but her spouse was used to being smart and used to having answers or being able to find them. His tongue briefly grazed his lower lip, and he swallowed. "When?" "A little after 6. I went to go talk to Josie. Do you remember that I was going there?" He nodded and rubbed his forehead. "But not... Wow." His laugh was breathless and uneasy. "So, retrograde amnesia. I've seen it in drugging victims, and it'll be useful to be able to know what that experience is like. What else did we talk about?" "Not much, because they were probably monitoring the call." She took his hand and ran her thumb over the back, smoothing the fine dark hairs. The brevity of his answers when she'd called took on a new shape now. "You sounded tired. Said you were going to order room service?" "Holy. I remember none of that." He grimaced and tilted his head back to squint at the ceiling. "Maybe I should have let them keep me in sickbay." A light rap sounded a light rap.
Here we go. A light wrap.
In sickbay.
A light rap at the door stopped the rest of his sentence. Tesla stepped around him and yanked the door open. "For crying out loud, I said, oh, sorry." Annie and Jalna stood in the door, while Niall Silver waited a little down the hall, flipping a coin across the back of his knuckles. The security officers and Dr. Fish were gone. With a wrinkle of her nose, Annie made a Midwestern smile grimace. "So sorry, sweetheart, but Jalna and I are going on to yoga and just wanted to let you know we were leaving and make sure you were okay. Niall has offered to walk you back to your cabin through the service corridors." Shal poked his head out of the room.
Let's go back and get one little thing. While Niall Silver waited a little way down the hall. He just left out the way.
Okay.
Here we go. Just that sentence.
Alna stood in the door.
While Niall Silver waited a little way down the hall.
Thank you.
Also, fun fact, Niall Silver is named after a magician friend of mine, Jordan Gold. Get it? Niall Silver, Jordan Gold.
You talking to me? I'm sorry, I was playing stuff back. What were you saying?
That's okay. It's for anyone.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, Niall Silver is named after a magician friend of mine whose name is Jordan Gold.
Ah. Let's see here. Alessandro was asking about is we hole up and he holes up. Okay, talking about Halden. Back on.
Oh, just a repetition of language?
Yeah, of the whole. I think it's just
Yeah,
repetition.
that's fine.
Okay, great. Security officer and Dr. Fish were gone. Shal poked his head out of the room. Here we go.
Corridors.
Wait a minute. Did I get that? Yes, I did. Okay, here we go. Sorry.
Corridors.
Shal poked his head out of the room. What happened to Bob and Maria? Maria? Officer Piper. I promised her a playdate with Gimlet. He looked down at the little dog. Who is the best bribe? Is it you? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good bribe. Such a good bribe. Gimlet's tail wagged furiously, and she looked up at Shal with adoring eyes. Jalna waved her hand. They were called away, but Niall will get you safely back to your cabin. Great. Shal slid an arm around Tesla's waist. I am very much looking forward to seeing our cabin and plan to never leave it again. She kissed him on the cheek as a pre-apology before turning back to Annie. Is that invitation to come to yoga still open?
I would take this moment to use facilities real quick, if that's okay.
That sounds great. I'm going to let our listeners listen to some light jazz to make it easy to tell when we are back.
Sounds good. I'll be right back. Excuse me. I am back. Are you back? Me too. Great.
Hello. Okay.
So, the fourth degree.
The fourth degree. Just get settled.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Yoga still open?
Fourth degree. 3/4 ounce sweet vermouth, 3/4 ounce gin, 3/4 ounce dry vermouth, 1 teaspoon absinthe, 1 lemon peel. Stir ingredients over ice for 40 seconds. Strain into a coupe. Garnish with lemon peel. The service elevator was scuffed, unornamented, and smelled faintly of bleach. Tesla had seen more service corridors than main halls at almost every public event she attended. Niles'
Sorry,
brow
I want to stop us real quick because I feel like you're a little bit farther from the mic, I'm afraid, and so it sounds less. Doesn't sound quite the same. You didn't move.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, but you know how it is. When you stand up and come back,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
may have bumped.
Let me listen real quick. Maybe it's just a volume thing. Can we take it from the top of this one more time, please? And just
Sure thing.
it sounds like you're a tad bit farther away. Is what it sounds like. I know you're not. But...
Yeah, I've bumped the chair a little closer, but
Okay,
Lord knows.
great. Sorry about that. Thank you. Here we go.
Yoga still open?
4th degree. 3/4 ounce sweet vermouth. 3/4 ounce dry gin, which is a thing, but not actually the line. This is what happens when you start me over.
Sorry, we'll start with the gin.
On sweet vermouth?
3/4 ounce gin. 3/4 ounce dry vermouth. 1 teaspoon absinthe. 1 lemon peel. Stir ingredients over ice for 40 seconds. Strain into a coupe. Garnish with lemon peel. The service elevator was scuffed, unornamented.
Let's do the service elevator. Here we go.
Okay.
Garnish with lemon peel.
The service elevator was scuffed, unornamented, and smelled faintly of bleach. Tesla had seen more service corridors than main halls at almost every public event she attended. Niles' brow furrowed as he waved his employee key fob to transport the lot of them up to the lunar level. Sorry about the state of this. He waved his hand vaguely at the elevator. I'm sure it's not what you're used to. Tesla rolled her shoulders in a shrug.
Tesla rolled. Here we go.
Not what you're used to.
Tesla rolled her shoulders in a shrug and winked to set him at ease, the same way she'd done in 100 other service elevators.
Tesla, same punch, please.
Not what you're used to.
Tesla rolled her shoulders in a shrug and winked to set him at ease, the same way she'd done in 100 other service elevators. Makes me feel clandestine. Shal nodded at the corner of the elevator, where a camera resided. Must be hard to do your close-up magic with cameras everywhere. Niall shrugged. You learn to compensate for cameras, and there are blind spots, but if I told you where, I'd be giving away all my secrets. The elevator doors opened. Here we are. Another service corridor with plain gray walls and scuffed gray floors curved away from them in opposite directions. No attempt was made to mask the curvature of the centrifuge ring, and the floor appeared to slope up a steep ramp on either side. In lunar gravity, Gimlet bounded with each step, legs windmilling until she touched down again. Jalna turned to them and said, Let me just run ahead to let Majabin know we have guests.
Let's get a couple quick things, and then we'll pick it up, but let me just... How does clandestine feel for you? Just listen.
Makes me feel clandestine.
Is that not how it's pronounced?
No, it's how it's pronounced. The smoothness of it was what my brain might have created something where there was nothing. But if it didn't bother you, I'm okay with it. It was subtle.
Yeah. I actually need to cut a line. I was going to try to let it go, but it's wrong.
Okay.
curved away from them in opposite directions. No attempt was made to mask the curvature of the centrifuge ring, and the floor attempted to slope up to a steep ramp on either side. It is not they're in the core of the ship, so there's not actually a ring here.
Okay. So you're chopping from no attempt through
Yep.
at either end?
Yep.
Great.
I might have been able to get away with it, except I begged for a map, and they've given me a map.
No attempt. All right, let me get rid of that. And we'll get rid of that. We'll switch this up, but that takes care of one of the things you're going to mess with anyway. So it works out.
Great.
Clandestine is good. Opened. Whoa. Nope. There we go. That works for me.
Yeah, the Coriolis effect and this smaller ring would be so significant that...
A hard time walking.
Yep. The elevator is also bonkers because it changes orientation as it moves down the... This whole ship... Nothing about this ship actually makes sense. Like, I mean, it all works, but the only people that would build it are a ridiculously expensive cruise line.
Yes. Well, it is futury enough that they can pull it off, right? All right, so then turned to them and said, let me just run ahead. So we're going to start with let me just run ahead.
Turned to them and said,
just let me run ahead to let Marjabine know we have guests to eat.
Let's do that again. Are you changing it, or is it still let me just? You said
it is
just.
Still let me just.
Me. Okay, here we go. Same place, please.
Turned to them and said,
let me just run ahead to let Marjabine know we have guests. How many want to join us? Beside her, Shal groaned under his breath and raised his hand. I'm in. On the list of things Tesla had not thought through, number 47 was that Shal would want to join the class. Oh, but your ribs. He glared at her. I'm in. In front of them, Niall said, I have to prep for the next show, I'm afraid, but I can arrange for another escort after the class. Do then. Jonna nodded, hurrying ahead of them in the easy shoulders forward.
Jonna nodded. Here we go.
do then.
Jonna nodded, hurrying ahead of them in the easy shoulders forward lope of a lunar dweller.
Hurrying ahead. Here we go.
Jonna nodded.
Hurrying ahead of them in the easy shoulders-forward lope of a lunar dweller. Tesla had thought she was graceful in the Earth-Terran... Earth gravity is actually probably fine. It's not talking about lunar Terran level. We'll leave that one.
Okay.
Lunar dweller.
Sorry. Tesla had thought she was graceful in the Earth gravity section, but in lunar G, she was breathtakingly gorgeous. See you there. As they passed a stairway, Shal slowed and then stopped. He walked back to it and poked his head in, frowning. Are we directly over the yacht club now? Niall kept walking and glanced back. I suppose. He reached for a door and dramatically drew it open onto a lobby area. Et voila! We emerge into the real world, returned like Orpheus, rising from the underworld. Really? That's your metaphor? Tesla laughed, tightening her hold on Gimlet's leash as she stepped through the door. Tasteless or on point, you decide. He leaned out into the main area of the ship, keeping a foot in the service corridor. Keeping 1 foot. Not on foot.
Let's see here. I just want to check a couple quick things.
Okay.
I guess the only quick question I have is returned like Orpheus rising from the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a metaphor or is that a simile?
Tesla is not a writer.
Returned, not a writer.
So it's okay if it's wrong.
Okay, great. Perfect. All right, after on point. He leaned out. Here we go.
Point. You decide.
He leaned out into the main area of the ship, keeping one foot in the service corridor. I'll leave you here, if that's okay. It looks like the coast is clear. Thanks, I appreciate it. Just ping me anytime you need an escort.
Just ping. Here we go.
I appreciate it.
Just ping me anytime you need an escort. I know they're supposed to take care of you, but also... He winked at her. I'm a magician. I know all the secret shortcuts. How mysterious. I am the amazing Niall Silver. With a deliberately silly helicopter. It's like Mad Libs, really, sometimes. Bonus.
Helicopter.
Oh, why is a helicopter over our house?
They found you.
They did. Oh, no.
Let's see here. I know that they're supposed to take care of you is where we'll end up picking it up. We just left the that out.
Yep, sorry. There we go. Yay, I can see you all now.
Gotcha. Mad Libs or a drinking game, Paul says.
Yes. Okay. It's gone.
We'll take.
I will
Okay.
stop looking at comments.
I know that they're supposed to take care of you. Just that phrase, please. To the bottom of the previous of page 162.
Got it.
There we go.
You need an escort.
I know that they're supposed to take care of you, but also...
Thank you. Okay. He winked at her, blah, blah, blah. With a deliberately silly on the next page. Here we go.
Silver!
With a deliberately silly, overdramatic bow, filled with flourishes of his arms and a deeply bent knee, he swept away as if he still had his cape. Mwahahaha! Annie beamed after him. You see why we like him so much. He's charming. Tesla nodded as if she didn't have questions for him.
Tesla nodded. Here we go.
He's charming.
Tesla nodded as if she didn't have questions for him about the argument he'd had with...
He's charming.
Tesla nodded as if she didn't have questions for him about the argument he'd had... this is not a difficult combination of words. He'd had with George.
He's charming.
Tesla nodded as if she didn't have questions for him about the argument he'd had with George. She had a brief moment of thinking that she might need to catch his show later, then remembered the pyro. The room flashed hot and cold, and static crackled in her ears. She swallowed and looked down, waiting for the spinning to stop. Gimlet stood on her hind legs with her paws pressed against Tesla. She stared up with her white fur making a bright spot for focus. The carpet was magenta with large gold bumblebees marching in rigid lines, a whiff of lavender and the sweet caramel of bourbon. She frowned, looking around the lobby for a bar. No luck. It was a broad room, lined with artificial windows revealing a moonscape at Earthrise. On the far side, a glass elevator bank waited to carry passengers down the gravity well, and past that, a bridge extended over the promenade to the central core of the ship. Annie led them across the bridge. "I just love this view." Below them, the ship opened up in a vaulted atrium, lined with balconies on each level that were subtly canted to provide the right angle of down for their level in the centrifuge. The Terran gravity floor stretched across the base, filled with trees and... I just bobbled stretched, and I know it.
Okay. Provide. Let me just listen to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do it from lined with balconies and continue on from there, please?
Okay.
Here we go.
Vaulted atrium.
Lined with balconies on each level that were subtly canted to provide the right angle of down for their level in the centrifuge. The Terran gravity floor stretched across the base, filled with trees and shoppers. At intervals, bridges, living walls of greenery, and glass sculptures let light through but broke the space up just enough that they masked the curve of the ship. She slowed on the bridge, looking back to wait for Shal. A moment later, he sauntered through the door from the hall, rubbing the lobe of one ear in deep thought. Sighing, he looked up to find her and smiled. "We could go back to the cabin if you just want to work on flexibility. And how will that help with my peace of mind? I promise that I will do my level best to make sure that you are not thinking."
I promise. Just getting a little click. Great, moving on.
Okay.
After peace of mind. Here we go.
My peace of mind.
Sorry.
Here we go.
My peace of mind.
I promise that I will do my level best to make sure that you are not thinking about anything past the bedroom. She arched her brows, suppressing a smile, and headed after Janny.
She arched. Here we go.
She arched her brows, suppressing a smile, and headed across... sorry. Kendra left a comment about a continuity thing that I am just... looking up. About the argument he'd had with George. It's an argument that he's having with George and the bald passenger. So we will add in with George and the bald passenger.
Okay.
So it's after he's charming.
Gotcha. Let me find it. Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Let me find it now in the audio.
Thank you, Kendra. one of the things... go on. You find it?
No, go ahead. Nope, I found it, but go ahead.
Okay, great. Oh, I was just going to say that one of the things about doing the audiobook, because I wind up reading the same line over and over and never really get into the flow of the story, it's much easier to spot this kind of thing. Like, when I'm... Otherwise, I will just kind of glance past it.
Yep.
Because I know it's
so I'm going
supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the reasons, like I've said, I don't read ahead, because that way I don't know what it's supposed to be anymore. She had a brief moment. No. Tesla nodded. She didn't have questions. Tesla nodded through the end of that ball with the addition. Here we go.
He's charming.
Tesla nodded as if she didn't have questions for him about the argument he'd had with George and the bald passenger.
Thank you.
Awesome. It's also why it's nice when we get to live stream these.
Yeah.
Because help from the audience.
Indeed. Makes our lives easier.
It does. It means significantly fewer fixes later. Although, and that's like a weird one, because that would have, that just would have been published.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well,
today.
Oh, that just would have been published, and it would have been fine-ish.
Oh, right.
But
right.
But where it makes it easier is when I misspeak, when I get the text wrong and they spot it, and then that saves us from having to do a fix later.
Yeah, for sure.
This just makes my life less embarrassing.
Let's see here. So we're gonna pull it on, or should we arch your brows? So we're gonna pull it, punch in. Here we go. Sorry, do you see where I am?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She arched her brows, suppressing a smile, and headed after Annie across the bridge. When necessary, she could still force her ass to roll in seductive circles with her stride. Behind her, Shao cleared his throat and then followed. So that was one thing that was going right at any rate. On the far side of the bridge, a broad arch opened onto a large studio with floors that at least looked like hardwood and high ceilings to allow for lunar gravity leaps. Flowing curtains stirred the ship's... The flowing curtains did not stir the ship's circulation system. They were stirred by the ship's circulation system. It's a really fascinating engineering feat. Okay. Let's just fix it. So, flowing curtains stirred by the ship's circulation system.
Yep.
No, hang on. Now the sentence doesn't make sense. Okay, now I have to take the "and" out. Flowing curtains stirred by the ship's circulation system gave the illusion of privacy.
Okay.
Do I need commas in there?
Flowing curtains, comma, stirred by the ship's...
I think that's what I do need.
You're saying flowing curtains stirred by the ship's circulation system gave the illusion of privacy, right?
Correct. So I'm inserting a couple of commas.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Flowing curtains. Here we go.
Gravity leaps.
Flowing curtains, stirred by the ship's circulation system, gave the illusion of privacy. Inside, the lights were lowered to pools of warmth. Gentle Titian flutes. We learned how to say that. Titian?
We did. Titian sounds right. Let's double check.
Titian?
Titian. Titian.
Titian. It is Titian. Oh
Titian. Gentle Titian flutes. There we go.
pools of warmth.
Gentle Titian flutes were playing in the background in one of those innocuous melodies that was annoying because it worked. Tesla's shoulders relaxed, and she?
Tesla's shoulders.
Because it worked.
Tesla's shoulders relaxed, and she took a long, slow breath. Maybe yoga actually was a good idea. Annie said, "I'll get some mats set up for us." She gestured to the corner. "The matter printer is just there if you need clothes." "Perfect. Is it all right if Gimlet comes in?" "No one will object to that, sweetheart." Annie studied the room. "But you might be most comfortable in the back. Is that all right?" "That sounds like a plan. Thank you." Tesla started to head to the matter printer, but Shal stopped her with a squeeze on her elbow. She raised her brows in question. "Tesla?" He leaned into her.
Tesla. He leaned.
Tesla.
He leaned into her, voice lowered. "Did you take the safeties off the DBPS?" "Yes," but she wrinkled her nose at him. "Now, why would you think that?" "Because my other hand is touching your arm." "Oh my God! Tesla Crane?" A reedy teenager's voice cracked on the last syllable of her name. "Lo and verily, it is I." She smiled at the kid and stepped away from Shal, but she dialed the DBPS back down, inviting in crackles of yellow ground glass with each subtle shift of her posture. "Sorry, oh wow, sorry." The teenager was as pale as salt and gawked at Tesla with enormous violet eyes that had to be enhanced with lenses. "I just didn't expect to see you here. Of all places. Sorry, I was a finalist in the Crane Robotics competition, the Utah team with the polydactyl octopoid, 3 years ago. It was blue?" With each question, the teen seemed to shrink a little. "Of course. You had trouble with the navigation course?" The teen nodded, eyes no smaller in their head. "Our octo broke."
Our octo.
No smaller in their head.
"Our octo broke a thumb and it messed with the sensors, so we just kept going around it in a circle around this one side." So we just kept going in a circle.
So we just. Here we go.
And it messed with the sensors.
So we just kept going and...
Same place. Here we go.
And it messed with the sensors.
So we just kept going in a circle around this one sign. It was epic. I'm amazed you remembered. She didn't. 3 years ago, Tesla would still have been strung out on painkillers. But all of the teams had trouble with some part of the competition. That's the way it was designed. "Can you help me with your name?" The teen hesitated, biting their lower lip, and glanced.
Here we go.
Biting their lower lip.
And glanced across the yoga studio to the older bald passenger who had argued with the magician. The room went hot and cold. "I'm, Ewan? They, them?" The kid ran a hand over hair cropped so short as to be more aura than a discernible tint. "Yeah, so, like, that was cool. And, thanks and all. Whoa, is that a real dog?" "She sure is." At her feet, Gimlet was panting happily up at Ewan and not in her vest. "You can pet her if you'd like. Gimlet, go say hi." "Soaking awesome!" They crouched, tentatively patting the little dog's white fur. She kept smiling at the kid as Gimlet fell on her back to offer her belly for scratching. Over their shoulder, the bald passenger was frowning with their arms crossed over their chest. Why were they here? Neither of them was on the list of passengers in the yoga group, unless they, too, were traveling under false identities, except there were 7 people besides George with the group code and 9 people in the room. Maybe she could pull the kid aside to ask about robotics later and slip in some questions about other things, too. Beside her, Shal sucked in a short breath. He pursed his lips and murmured.
He pursed his lips. we go.
in a short breath.
He pursed his lips and murmured, "Oh, interesting." She followed his gaze. On the far side of the room, Jalna stood chatting with a lunar European who was around 180 centimeters with a narrow, uncurved figure. Their straight black hair was in a bowl cut. Is that... She took Shal's hand.
He took. Here we go.
Is that...
She took Shal's hand, leaning in as if just being affectionate. Is that the person you chased from the Arbar? Whoops. Ha ha. Hello. That's
Service corridor? I mean,
service corridor. I think we're just going to say, is that the person you chased?
there you go.
Okay.
All right. So is that, here we go.
being affectionate.
Is that the sorry, one more time.
Here we go.
Being affectionate.
Is that the person you chased? Could be. She had other questions, but Ewan was there and still needed attention. Ewan, may I introduce you to my spouse, Shalmanesser Steward? You're married? The teen's eyes widened even further. I mean, that's cool. Nice to meet you. Newlyweds. A whole week now. Shal's lips twitched and he smiled, offering the kid a shallow social bow. Nice to meet you. So you're interested in robotics? With a voice-breaking squeak, Ewan swallowed. Yes? I mean, yes, a lot. Well, you'll have to help me understand it sometime.
Well, here we go. Let me check the P on person. Great. So you'll have to help me understand it.
Yes, a lot.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yes, a lot.
Well, you'll have to help me understand it sometime. Shal glanced at Tesla, a gentle smile curving his lips. My spouse is a bit.
My spouse. Here we go.
Curving his lips.
My spouse is a bit more advanced than me in that regard. She's like, I can't even. Ewan bounced on their toes.
Ewan. Here we go.
I can't even.
Ewan bounced on their toes, nearly launching off the floor in the light gravity, and leaned toward Tesla with excited glee. And oh my god, you will get this, and Pops totally doesn't, but do you see who's... But did you see?
Look at this. Let's see here. And oh my god, here we go.
Okay.
With excited glee.
And oh my god, you will get this, and Pops totally doesn't. But did you see who's in here? The last was hissed with delighted and not subtle urgency. Tesla cocked her head, scanning the other people there for someone who would have excited a teenager's interest. A star? A musician? Another roboticist? Years of fan interactions had given her an edge on the art of appearing to know what someone was talking about. She winked at Ewan. I see. Now what specifically makes you so excited about that? Their hands fluttered. J.M.M. Tafani! A thumb jerked toward the corner where Jalna and the lunar...
A thumb. Let me check one thing, please.
Mm-hmm.
making a quick removal of a breath.
Scanning the other people there for someone.
Great. Okay. After Tafani, here we go.
I am Tafani!
A thumb jerked toward the corner where Jalna and the lunar European woman were talking. I mean, being in a class with her, even if it's not robotics, is like acid dazzle flash. She's so nice, so nice. And it's the best because Pops totally surprised me with this yoga thing, and like I wasn't too into it.
I wasn't. Here we go.
This yoga thing, and like
Okay.
this yoga thing, and like
I wasn't too into it, but then I found out that Jalna Marwe Minsa Tafani was in the class? The room seemed to rearrange itself again. Tesla had read robotics papers by J.M.M. Tafani, and she was brilliant. Jalna. Everyone in the industry had always called her Jem as a sort of pronunciation of J.M.M. And Smith? She'd guessed Annie and Jalna were traveling under a fake last name, but that's Jim Tafani? Holy shit! Yes! I knew you would get it! Catch me up. Shal's hand squeezed her, and she could just feel it as he played the baffled and genial spouse, smiling at the teen. She wrote the literal book on octopoids. Sweat slicked her hand, and he had to feel it. There's no possible way that Jalna hadn't known who Tesla was when they met. The Pamu accident had been everywhere, and anyone in robotics would have been deeply familiar with the reasons a lab full of people had died. Oh, wow, Ewan was saying. Okay, wow. Her work on haptic feedback for non-anthropomorphic robotic interfaces is so jaw-dropping, oof.
Her work.
Mm-hmm.
After wow, so starting with her work.
Okay.
Here we go.
wow,
her work.
wow,
Her work on haptic feedback for non-anthropomorphic robotic interfaces is so jaw-droppingly transcendent that I almost went total blackout when I saw her. I mean, J.M.M. Tafani and Tesla Crane in the same room? My friends on the... Ewan cut off and glanced back at their parent. No, they've said Pops. I can say Dad here.
Yep. Ewan cut off.
Mm-hmm.
my friends on the...
Ewan cut off and glanced back at their dad. I mean, it's really cool is all. The bald passenger pushed away from the wall, walking over to join them.
Hope everything is okay?
Yes, thank you. She turned towards... I'm gonna drink water.
Okay, I'm gonna check on one thing. Six.
I notice that it is nearly 12:30. Should we find a place to stop? Or 11:30 your time.
What's that?
I noticed that it is nearly 12:30 when you need to stop.
Yeah, we need to let me find
Find a spot.
Thing and then, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Yep. So after Thank you. We were just chatting about she turned toward the change in focus. Where do you want to?
After a fond sideways smile at their child, and then change on into his voice.
Yeah.
So that when we come back,
good.
we're doing dialogue. Okay.
Yep, that sounds perfect. All right, here we go.
Thank you.
She turned toward the.
Thank you.
She turned toward the change in focus as a desperate lifeline. We were just chatting about yoga. Ewan cut in. Pops, I was just telling how you surprised me with the yoga trip. Tesla concentrated on her breathing, trying to calm down. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Running a hand over their skull-smooth pate, Pops gave a fond sideways smile at their child.
Can we do running a hand over A? I think you said over there.
Thank you.
Just do that phrase, please. Here we go.
4.
Running a hand over a skull-smooth pate, Pops gave a fond sideways smile at their child.
Cool. All right, so tomorrow we'll have the split session in the morning. Is that true still for you?
That is still true.
Great. 9:30 to 11 and 12 to 1:30.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So we'll see y'all tomorrow. There's no recording session tonight because I'm actually having a social life. It's fascinating and strange. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Goodbye. Good day.